Hello, my name is Michael Stoller, host of the Stoller Report, Real Estate Trends in the Tri-State Region. Money, money, money. Is it money for real estate? I don't know. You know, there's a recession. I still it's considered a recession. The stock market's in the bathtub. Everything's in trouble. But, you know, there are people who are still lending money on commercial real estate. They're lending it under certain terms, conditions, to people they like, and to a variety of players. So I have assembled today the guys who are lending money. I mean, one of them, John Gunther-Mohr of the Bank of Scotland, Jamie Merman of the Helaba Bank. I wouldn't use the other name, I can't pronounce it. Okay, Matt Galligan of the Bank of Ireland. And I don't know why we brought somebody from America, Roy Chin from the Bank of America. So, you know, you guys are like not the 800-pound, the 2,000-pound gorillas. The 2,000-pound gorillas. Now, Matt, I'm going to pick on you, not pick on you. You came, when did the Bank of Ireland decide to start lending money in New York?
Well, Bank of Ireland's very much a real estate bank. We're a large commercial bank based in Dublin, obviously, and we're about a $300 billion bank. About 73% of our assets are concentrated in Ireland and the UK, and we're going about diversifying in very select niches, leveraged acquisition finance, real estate, and markets that we know very well. The initiative really began strategically 2 years ago when we took a look at this marketplace, and there were, prior to my joining the bank, there was an effort to set up a CMBS presence, and the bank was uncomfortable with that, and they developed various strategies to come into the market. We have been active here in the United States for 5 years on the leveraged finance side, and we're trying to build out our platform where we also have a full-scale treasury operation and other niche businesses like project finance. So it's evolved over the last 2 years ago. We started, our timing was probably perfect. I joined the bank July 9th. I'm told by some people that August 8th was the start of the credit crisis, and really the new era of lending, so we didn't have to suffer through the top of the credit cycle.
So what about the new era of lending? You know, you're with the Bank of Scotland, the Robert Burns Society. Okay, what's happening in this new era of lending?
It's all about the tables have turned, and now there's less capital than there are deals, and so rather than money chasing deals are now chasing lenders, and you certainly have that sense. Probably all of us sit around and the phone rings and somebody's looking to come in or talk to you, or there's more deals that just sort of flow in out of the blue, out of the market that you're not even looking for.
So with all these deals, you know, the Bank of America, I mean, how big is the Bank of America?
We have capitalization about $150 billion. Our real estate book is probably about $80 billion.
And I mean, but everybody knows who Bank of America is. But what is Bank of America doing these days? What kind of loans do they like? You know, I want to know what kind of loans. What's the flavor of the month? You know, if a developer wants, they want to know what they should go to Roy Chin to. You know, what are they going to go to Matt to?
Bank of America's marketing strategy is really to provide full-service banking to privately owned, income-producing real estate developers. Office, retail, residential. Our focus is primarily after companies that have strong balance sheets, strong management expertise, and frankly, people have been in the business for a long time.
So you're basically, if I have to make this concise, you're a relationship. You like people who are a relationship. And you, the good German bank, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you're doing what?
We like relationships also. Versus transaction orientation. I got an email today from a a broker requesting, what's our hot spot? What's our sweet zone? What do we want to do? And I wrote back, Class A office, stabilized, Class A regional retail, which I consider a regional retail about 800,000 square feet or larger, and Class A residential, and then I added in an urban location. That's,
So I hear retail, I hear office, I hear residential. I didn't hear something, all you guys, except for him because he's the American banker over here, are from out of town. And people, it's cheap to come to America. So why don't you like the hospitality business? You guys
we were actually quite active in the hospitality space. We do actually have a joint venture that owns a couple of hotels, and the bank has traditionally been involved in that industry. So, you ride the market up and down, and the hotel market is perhaps not as strong as it was in the last couple of years, but we are continuing to look at it, particularly in the shorter term business where maybe 3-5 year term loan renovation going on. We do have a few construction loans, but it's harder to justify a new hotel right now.
What about you, Matt?
We're not a particularly good hotel lender. And the reason for that is the Irish refer to it as trading revenue. It's revenue that you would have on a daily basis rather than long-term income-producing revenue. Now we we finance the Shelburne Hotel in Dublin. If it's a boutique hotel with a very strong sponsor, then perhaps we'll consider it. But if I could make a comment about relationship, I think from our perspective, being new kid on the block and in this kind of environment, I don't think that there's ever a greater time to build a book, obviously from an underwriting perspective, but also from a relationship perspective. As John was just talking about, we have opportunities to deal with, the top families in New York, the top retail developers on the West Coast, the top office developers in LA, major REITs that, we never would have had that opportunity. So although we're being very selective in what we're doing, we're being very aggressive by trying to put ourselves in front of the absolute top quality clients so that when this market does turn, we have an opportunity for an ongoing dialogue with the best in the industry.
But here's my question. You bring up two very valid points. When this market turns, when do you see this credit crisis changing? How much longer do you think this instability? You guys are still lending, so there's money out there. There's an availability. When, unfortunately, we remember periods we become too aggressive and this and that. When do you think it's going to get loosened up?
I think, there's three things that are going on that are making it really a strange crisis. You have uncertainty in a lot of areas. So you have political uncertainty. Who's going to win the election? How does that change things? That has overhanged the market. The economy is uncertain. Are we in a recession? Certainly people say yes, but it hasn't been declared, so there's that. And there's the capital market side, which is still not settled down at all. There's still just that the interbank market is still distorted. It doesn't work well. And so you have three things going on for all these bank management guys running a bank now. Not easy when they're getting, some are getting fired month by month. So they're being very cautious and very careful about where they put their money and how much and so forth.
What do you think, Roy?
The components that John mentioned are clear, and the difficulty is we haven't really seen this before, number one. And number two, at least in my view, one of the big unknowns to me is consumer confidence. We've got oil, gas today at $4 plus. If it comes down, it's going to come down it's not going to come down to $2. It'll back off a bit. We've got housing prices that are through the roof. So the question is, consumers basically drive 70% of the GDP. So where is the consumer confidence going to come from? In terms of when are we going to come out of this credit crunch, my sense is it's going to be a while. Late 2009, early 2010, just for a number of the issues to kind of sort itself through.
But it's interesting, like Matt said, he starts in July, and really the crisis starts not even August is over there. And, you know, Jamie, you've been with me on a couple of shows, and, you know, I think it was even a year ago, it was June, but it was getting close to this credit crisis. You know, so the question is, when is it going to get better? But, you know, you bring up a very valid point. You know, you want to deal, and you have the opportunity to deal with a good family, the good relationship, the people who have strong financials. What happens to those new kids on the block? What happens to those developers who come to you? Because no question, the brokers, the investment bankers, and everybody call you, they call all of you. What happens with them?
No, it's very difficult for them. Because again, I'm sure they are hearing a number of reasons why the lenders are not comfortable doing the financing with them. And you know, in the past they've gone to some of the other non-traditional lenders, you know, maybe Lehman or Bear Stearns or some of the others that would provide some of that financing for them at a higher cost, but they were taking on a little bit of additional risk. So, you know, it's tough, I think. I mean, because we're certainly, I agree, we see a lot of those transactions. John said the phones constantly ring, the deals come across our desk, and we're just extremely selective. And, you know, we're still doing a lot of business, and we have a fairly large budget that we have to meet. But, you know, it's a process to go through, and it's a good question. You know, will other lending sources,
in the same way that, you know, the panel that you participated in, that you're going to participate on next week, you know, that's why there is this market for these specialty lenders, and these guys who are charging a higher rate, who are taking a higher risk. I mean, they're taking a risk reward. I tell a story about the condo market. I asked you, I know a person who tried to get a loan. He had a loan and he lost the term sheet, lost the commitment because he couldn't deliver in enough time. And I spoke to the appraiser. It's in Great Neck, and the appraiser said, "You owe me." I said, "What?" He says, "The value of the land in 1 year has decreased by 20% in Great Neck." So, you know, what happens over here? You know, the condo market, you know, New York City, we have the same problems. You know, there are no more 421As. I mean, I saw a deal the other day. In the book it says they have the golden certificates. Golden certificates mean that you can use them later on, but it's a tough time.
Yeah.
What do you see about the condo market? You know, condomania was there, but today, you know, we were talking about it. What are we seeing in the condo?
I think condos are, you know, in New York City, Wall Street has always been the driver for residential. In the last couple of years, we've had a very strong European foreign money buying residential in New York. Having said that, you know, I think everybody's watching the stats very carefully. Inventory is beginning to build up. Traffic continues to be there, but it's taking longer for people to commit. So my sense is that condos are going to be, you know, slow and steady.
We watch, we all, probably all the lenders with a condo book, every month you're getting that sales report, you're doing your reporting up the line, and I'm actually surprised to see how that sales have continued despite this. Now, you can always say there's a momentum that slows down, but we are still seeing sales in the really core residential areas.
But so now let's talk about a condo. Let's talk about somebody, you know, if it's a great borrower, like we were talking prior to the show, you know, a great family, good situation, but not for a mediocre. Would you look at a condo deal today? Not if it's an established situation. I mean, on my shop, we won't look at a condo deal under any circumstances.
We would.
You know, we're adverse. I mean,
yeah. No,
John had a client who was going to do something in Baltimore, and I said, condo?
Not working. Yeah, it has to be, you know, right, prime location for us, prime, you know, residential location, really distinctive product. It probably is going to wind up being a very high-end product, so that the expectation or the hope is that that segment of the market is still active, and for the best sponsors with all the structure that you can come up with, and that might be, and you still have to drag, you know, if it's a big deal, you're still pulling enough banks together to get the thing to work, and it's not easy.
What about the outer boroughs? Well, what's your thought about lending in the outer boroughs? You know, Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx?
I think, I'd be very cautious about the outer boroughs at this point. Again, we're driven by relationships. Our primary relationships are Manhattan-based. We have done a couple of transactions in Brooklyn. We're really not that active in Bronx or Queens.
Have you seen anything?
Well, we of course see deal traffic from there, but I think the outer borough situation could really be likened to what Jamie was talking about, to your question of the small guy. It's kind of getting squeezed out. And we have looked at one residential deal in Long Island City, but it was with a really high quality New York-based name. Otherwise, I don't think we would have taken the meeting.
I think you also, a number of years ago I did a show and I had some investors on it, and I said to them, what do you think about Long Island City? And he said, do you think I can go back to Ireland or Germany and tell them about a deal in Long Island City? When you have to go back,
You have to explain
you have to explain where Long Island City is. So,
Yeah.
so
Long
it's-
Island, we're able to explain Long Island City on the water, and there's a section of property there with one developer who's controlling it that we're very active with.
Right, but that's a good developer.
Right.
It goes back to that relationship discussion that we were
Right.
talking about.
And that's
I
what
can tell you, Michael, that major European developers are coming into our office to get our opinion on deals in Long Island City because they're being asked to come look at those as money partners. Can I make one other comment?
Sure.
One thing, the environment, and I agree with how John characterized it because we're all living that. And you asked me why the Bank of Ireland would come into this market at this time. And, our target market is really the Boston-Washington corridor. If you look at the vacancy rates right now in office, let's just take office, on a national basis, I think they're about 12%. These are Cushman and Wakefield numbers. But in the key central business district markets of Boston, Washington, and New York, the office vacancy rate is no greater than 7.5%. And the reason for that is this one reason Roy was saying, we've never lived through a period like this. I've never lived through a downturn where there was not excess supply because the cost to build, whether it be condos or office, got so outrageous that, we're looking at the yields on these projects today. They're 8%, and our credit people are saying, my God, we get, double-digit 18, 20% yields on our projects. You have to be in it for the long haul here in order to make deals make sense. And I think, given the backdrop of a very nervous consumer, the U.S. has a great supply story to be telling now, and we also have this fabulous, robust economy that's very diverse. In New York, Wall Street accounts for a lot of disposable income, I agree, but it's only 50,000 jobs. And if you multiply that times support, it's probably 150,000. So I would hate people to get the impression that the fundamentals are anything but good. There is a lot of distress out there. There are a lot of problems. There are a lot of funding issues that are pushing banks' liabilities very short term. But I don't think that the real estate markets are in a crisis stage right now.
I think it's, a number of weeks ago I did a show with Larry Silverstein, and I said, how do you compare 1990 to 2008? And Larry, the ultimate optimist, shocked me because he said it's the worst time he's ever seen in the capital markets in his entire career. And it's really a dislocation. And John and I were at a symposium the other day where Peter Linneman spoke, and he basically said, it's not a bad time. It's just, it's indecision. The CMBS markets are stuck. We have certain problems, but it's not. This is not 1990 where values have gone down so much. And if office buildings have gone down, they went down from a top. I mean, the real question is, the same show I had Norman Sterner. He says, nah, everything's great. I said, Norman, you bought 1250 Broadway. You paid $310 million. If you bought it a year ago, you would have paid $360 million. But. And I said, Norman, if you bought it a year ago, you could have got 90% financing. Now you got 65% financing. So there's still money there, and I think exactly what you said. The world isn't there. It's just the question of dislocation, and people are worried. People are scared. I mean, would you say that, Jay?
Yeah, I think there's a certain level of anxiousness, and we deal a lot with Ireland, Scotland, Germany. They read the papers.
Charlotte.
Charlotte. So what we find is, where our senior management picks up the newspapers in Germany and reads about the U.S. and when they come and they walk around New York City and they don't see tumbleweed blowing down Fifth Avenue, they're like surprised, because what they're reading there, that's what they expect. That it's like the people are homeless, no one's got jobs, none of all the real estate, is being foreclosed on. And then they come to New York and they say, wow, it's actually very lively here and vibrant and activity, and there's a little bit of
But if they go down to Florida, they'll see a different
tumbleweed is blowing.
away from there.
Tumbleweed is blowing.
So
okay?
Part of the thing that I think is interesting, that's different about this time around, is that the crisis started with the capital, with the bank side, and we're not used to being the ones who are getting in trouble first. It's always that, certainly 1990 was the real estate. Oh my God, it's terrible. Look at real estate. And that's the cause of the problem. Now it's sort of the banks are the ones who are as I said earlier, the management of these banks are nervous as hell, because their institutions are there are real major risks that your institution can disappear, you can be bought, be merged, you're going to lose your job, and that causes a lot of, it certainly filters all the way down through.
But put it in perspective. We were all in the business in 1981, where you get out of a subway on Wall Street, and fear was all around. Interest rates were 21%. There wasn't a cover of a business magazine that didn't have Paul Volcker on it. And so
this is nothing compared to
we've been in markets that have seized up with fear before, and we've been here before. The question is, have we been here when the fundamentals have been that good? In those days, we had Trammell Crow, where we didn't have a lot of transparency. And at the Great Chase Manhattan Bank, we had $100 and something million out to them, and you didn't have any kind of outside support in terms of capital to put in those deals to make them right. And today, we do have a capital panic, if you will, or certainly a credit panic. But at least as real estate is concerned, and it will affect real estate. If it goes on for another year, the consumer is going to back up, and there are going to be problems. But my gut sense is that we'll probably get through this thing and all live to see another day.
No, I think Matt. I think we're definitely all going to live through this. I think it's going to take a little while, and I think everybody is a little gun shy. I mean, part of my operation that we do both sides of the transaction. If somebody came to me for a condo, unless it's unbelievably unique, we're not interested in. It's how you can reassess and change the use of a facility and work with it, because it's going to take a little longer for those condos to get sold. It's going to take a little longer over there, on all these situations on that market.
There'll be a lot of loan extensions going on.
But there are, if I had to say, in New York City, there are at least 25 banks who are still lending. Maybe under different terms and conditions, maybe not as leveraged. I mean, but you're still lending at a certain level. Now, my question is, how much money does somebody have to put into a deal? What's the equity requirement today?
My guess is, we're really looking for a minimum 35% equity.
Matt?
Yeah, 35%.
Yeah, if it's a pre-leased office or something, or there might be a slight, story there. But yeah, in general, that's the kind of number.
For my audience, okay, so now
and
it's
how
1
many
year.
pre-leased offices
okay,
are there?
A year ago, before Mac went into his job, how much equity did we want? How much equity would have you done a deal a year and a half ago, January of 2007?
We were willing to do a junior piece of debt behind a senior. The senior might have gone up to 75, and that junior piece might have gone up to 85, maybe
so somebody could have put in
higher.
as little as 10%. So I mean, for my audience, what I'm trying to get to is to say that yes, there is money for real estate. There is money if it's established under different terms. But I want to show that the difference that only 18 months ago, you could have gone in and done a deal for 10% or 12%.
The underwriting in today's market is unprecedented over the last 30 years. There's never been anything like it that I know in the commercial markets, where you can get 35% on fully stabilized Class A product. You guys ever seen anything like that?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
for us also, it's almost not so much on a value basis for us and how much equity and what the loan to value or loan to cost would be. It's that, we're real cash flow lenders. So we're really looking at, you say, a debt service coverage, or I like to ask, what's the debt yield on that deal? Because someone will say, well, it's a 1.3 coverage. And the first question, at what rate? Well, today's rate, which is 6%. I said, we like to look at 8% coming out, 1.2, and maybe like a 9.5, 9.6 debt yield.
And you talk about this, the treasuries are up. I mean,
Yeah.
the Treasury, we were talking today at the office about a transaction that a bank had given us a term sheet of 5 and 7.5, and was going to lock the rate. And T-bills, Treasury bills are 4.18. I mean, that's a low yield. I mean, so this is it's hard to say, but we have completed our time. I don't have much time. I have to thank John Gunther-Mohr, Jamie Merman, Matt Galligan, and Roy Chin for being here on the 205th Stoller Report and the end of the 7th season. And I'd like to really thank you for all celebrating this with me. And in a couple of weeks, we'll come back for the 8th season. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.